Welcome to The Other Side, where we take a ride each week and discuss our guests' personal journey, their hard work, sacrifice, struggles and failures, along with their passion, dedication, and determination. This is The Other Side. Hey, Chris, I am pretty excited about this week's guest. You know I love food, and Chef Miguel, he's got a wonderful story.
Absolutely. We got a chance to catch up with Chef at his restaurant and to taste some of his delicious food. He's definitely got a homegrown San Diego story, and we're about to get into that here on The Other Side.
But before we get to him, let me say hi to Chris, the man that makes this whole thing go. Chris, what's up, man?
How you doing this morning, Carlos?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good. Really excited to meet the man that's in front of me.
Yeah, well, you had a good opportunity to do a photo shoot down there at his current restaurant and sample some of his delicious food and have some libations as well. And I'm super stoked to have you here, and I look forward to the discussions. And let's get this thing going.
Thank you. Yeah, man, because we talked a little bit, and I was intrigued because of your roots and your background, obviously being Hispanic heritage and all these good things. But before we get to that, this is Miguel Valdez.
Yes.
How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Hanging in there, trying to keep working. That's it, man.
Right.
It's in my roots, man. Just gotta work all the time.
Always hustling.
Stop. Always hustling.
So before we get to, you're a chef, but before that, where were you born?
Here in San Diego, Barrio Logan. San Diego was born, and then I grew up in Barrio Logan. So,
and we talked about this before, the fact that Barrio Logan is kind of trending now. There's a lot of investment in there, a lot of changes. But when you were growing up, it was a different place.
Oh my God, it was hectic. I went to Our Lady of Guadalupe and Our Lady of Angels, as the Catholic school. My mom wanted us to have the best education as possible, but my dad, he owned a couple properties down in Logan, so that's why we were able to live down there. But yeah, my family's from Guadalajara, Mexico.
Your dad?
Yeah, my dad and my mom.
Wow, a beautiful place down there, worth visiting. I just recently visited, and I was blown away.
Oh yeah.
So your dad migrated?
Yeah, they both migrated.
Did they meet here or they?
Mexico. Yeah.
Wow, and both of them migrated.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, man. So that must have been trippy. But what about that? What about growing up in Barrio Logan, like as a kid, as a youngster?
It's actually something I wish my kids would have done, even though it was tough. You can run down the streets barefoot, climb trees, do things different. Now it's like they're on their social media or their switches or whatever they're on. It's like it's a totally different style of what it was. You can run the streets and come back before 8:00 before the lights go out.
Right.
So now it's totally different. They're all so nurtured, and then
it's just a different time. And I kind of, because I got my kids too, and I kind of hesitate when I speak like that, because I remember growing up as a kid, and my dad would say things like this, and I'm like, whatever, old man. But it is a different time. It's a different day. Like for instance, I see my son playing video games, and he's having he seems to be having the same type of fun that I was. But back in the day, I was actually at somebody's house, or people were at my house, and we were all in a group. Now they're all connected with headphones.
Yeah,
and stuff
exactly. It's like they're talking to someone else on the other side. It's like, no, I had to go to their house and make sure can they come out and play, and now it's totally different. So, but I'm glad I grew up that way. My family, they also live in Washington, so they came and migrated, and a lot of them moved up to Washington State. Okay. Right. So as during the summers came, my mom sent us up there, and we went to go work as a thing for us to kind of keep us busy.
What type of work?
Picking cherries, apples, peaches, pears, whatever migrant workers do out there. So my aunts, they all ran the shipping companies for the orchards, apples and stuff like that. So they were the big bosses.
Really?
Yeah.
And you had the hookup.
Yeah, not really the hookup. It was tough love. They put me to work. So, but that's what made me the person I am today.
Absolutely. You know what? It's kind of funny that we have certain a similar experience as far as growing up, because my mom's side of the family is from Stockton, California, there's a lot of vegetation out there, a lot of
Yeah.
fruits and
Yeah.
vegetables up there at San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah.
And we would go. I worked the fields a couple times, but thankfully, that's why I'm always grateful because my uncles and aunts, when they migrated, they had to go. It was
no choice.
to survive, right?
Yeah.
But thankfully, I didn't have to do it. I did it twice, a couple times, but damn, man, by 10 a.m. I was done. I was like, and then they would work the whole freaking day.
Yeah, we would wake up early in the morning before the sun came up.
Right.
But what was cool, what I loved about it is like the lunch times. My aunts would pack up these little mini burritos.
Oh,
in
yeah, those are the
foil,
best.
The sopes or everything. You'd have these full meals in the orchards. You'd be like dirty, but you'd be humbled with and it was amazing what these females would do. They would wake up so early, take care of their husbands the day before. On top of that, wake up early in the morning, and you'd have these phenomenal lunches, and then go back to work. You know, and that's how it was always like that. And
so good. Now, obviously, that influenced you as far as what you do. That when you're looking back, how much of it did you take away from?
Well, I didn't really get into the food when I was young. I was just like eating it, and my mom would make us cook. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment when we were in San Diego. When my mom got divorced, a lot of situations happened, and we lived in a small apartment. And my mom's still strict. She made us. Even though it was a small apartment, she would make us take turns on cleaning something or cooking. Right. So everybody had their turn to cook. And when it would come to my turn, my food was the worst. My sisters would hate it. I would burn the beans. I would burn the tortillas, or I couldn't make the tortillas the right way.
Right.
She would teach us how to make tortillas fresh from scratch at a young age. But, it didn't really attract me. I was getting in trouble a lot when I was younger, And that was the issue with me.
But that's I was gonna ask you about that because like a lot of people, when they're youngsters, they say, "Oh, that's what I want to be when I grow up," but a lot of us, like I know that I wasn't that way. So I'm that's why I'm curious. Like when did it kick in for you?
Well, when it really kicked in, me and my ex-wife at the time, we moved back from Washington because we were going from Washington to Pennsylvania, and I would work different things. And so we moved up to Pennsylvania at the time, and I was looking for side jobs or whatever I had to work, and I worked at this grocery store, and I ended up meeting a chef at the time, and he went to Johnson and Wales, which was a high-end college for culinary school.
Okay.
And so I started as a dishwasher. I asked him like I'll do whatever. I don't care. Like I'm willing just to learn. But then as I was washing dishes, I was like, can I get into whatever they're doing? Prep, morning breakfast, whatever. And I wasn't good. I was just, I was young and learning everything. And then we moved back to San Diego. My ex-wife wanted to move back. She was like, I'm done. We moved to Washington for a little bit. Then she took off. I started working at a pizza shop. I was a research assistant for the state of Washington first, I helped my cousin out, and so I would go through the orchards and we count blossoms or measurements of the apples and do testing and put in numbers. And I did that for a long time.
Really?
Yeah. So
did you go to school for that, or is
no?
Just
My cousin
job?
brought me in, and so he would have us collect data. So the data was that's what our jobs were. So he'd have multiple employees, but we would go throughout the state of Washington, a little bit of Oregon, and we'd purchase out plots. And those plots, we would do testing on chemicals, non-organic, everything what would help research for apples and peaches and pears. And then as I was, transitioning to get ready to move back to San Diego, I ended up working at a pizza shop, and I loved it so much. I started delivering. When I started driving my first stick, I was like, oh man, this is crazy, And I liked it a lot, doing pizzas. It was fun. It was something different for me. And I ended up leaving the research assistants. I moved back to San Diego, and my ex-wife, she would apply me for jobs when I was younger. I didn't do that kind of stuff. I was like,
how old were you when you got married?
When we were together, we were 20 years old. It took us a while before we got married, but we've been together for 15 years.
Wow.
So
you were young, man.
Yeah, I was super young, but she applied me for a job down here in San Diego, a couple jobs, and I got the job. It was it's where Asanti Zinateka's at now, and It's across the street from Prep Kitchen, but it was back in the day. It was Chef Lou's and Zagarella's. So I started as a pizza job. Started working pizzas right there in Maine, Little Italy, like where it's happening now.
At the heart of it.
At the heart of it.
I love that place. I just gotta say, I love Little Italy.
Yeah. So, I was there before the farmers markets were going up. I was there before, Ironside was Ironside. I was there before any of that stuff,
Wow.
I seen it all, but what gave me the ability to be the cook I was able to jump around multiple restaurants and see all these restaurants work and these Italian restaurants and everybody going into it. And it was a grind,
But what were your positions on those
I
different
was
restaurants?
a pizza cook. That was it at Chef Lou's. So I would just do delivery. I would do pizzas, and then what happened at one point, the main guy got let go, and I ended up taking his position. And so I was like, all right, perfect. I ended up having the best job ever.
Mexican making pizzas.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. It was awesome. I loved it. It was something. I was making good money at the time, and at the time, the owner's son was like, I want to open up a pizza, another Italian restaurant. I was like, all right, well, where? And he's like, in Old Town. I'm like, you're fucking crazy, bro. Like, you're gonna open up an Italian restaurant in like a Mexican area? Like, go for it. And he opened it up in a spot that's cursed. I know that it's cursed. It's been cursed for a long time. This place, it's next to a cemetery, literally, like right when you go into
Oh, is
Old
the
Town.
place on the corner right there? Yeah. What was it? That's been everything.
It's been dead for years.
Yeah.
So when that happened, they tanked. Obviously, the business started going out. He started lowering my pay. I was like, you know what? I can't do this. So behind there was a hotel that were open up, which was a Porta Vista Hotel. And I applied there, and I was like, I want to be a chef, and this and that, or cook. And, I ended up taking the position.
How does that work? Like, because you're making pizzas, and for that to show up, excuse my ignorance, but like to go to a hotel and say, hey, I want to be your chef.
It's taking a chance. It's taking the roll of a dice. It's like, what can you give them and offer them? So I had to like really say, like, give me a chance. So it's
Right.
like, let me show you what I can do if I can do it. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's about passion. If you really got the passion, and I had a lot of passion making pizzas. I loved it. There was something about making pizzas I loved, and I could still go back. It's like riding a bike.
It's therapeutic, right?
It is.
Yeah.
I was making the sauces, the meatballs. You name it. It was something. It was my little kitchen. It was the tiniest little kitchen ever, but it was mine,
Did you started just playing with different combinations and doing your own thing?
No, they had their recipes down or whatever, but if people asked for something different, I would do it. I'd be creative if I could, but I try not to, When I went to Porta Vista Hotel, I met a bunch of chefs and a bunch of people coming out of culinary school, and I was intrigued. I was like, what's the deal here? Like, what are they doing? And at the time, I thought, with that kitchen I was at, they're like, if you had the little black chef hat, it was like these little tiny weird hats that you had.
Uh-huh.
You were the sous chef, or you would progress to being the next person, And that's what I was working towards. I was working so hard at the time to do whatever it took. I was like, I just want to get that black hat. I want to get to the next position, whatever it was.
Rank.
And this was the first place I actually quit. I've never quit a job where I'm like, I'm done. Or, just left that day. I usually put 2 weeks notice or whatever. I got so frustrated at one point. I was like, I'm done. I threw my apron and I was like, I quit. I'm done with this,
What was frustrating though?
Just constantly busting my ass to get to where I was, and I wasn't getting
Low
getting
back
nowhere.
or like
I'm getting nowhere, and it was like, yeah, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. Don't worry. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. And I was just, I did it for a long time.
little carrot in front of the.
Yeah.
It's always the dangling carrot, right? To make you like, yeah.
Stay. Don't go.
Don't
Yeah.
go. Hey, next week it's going to get better.
Yeah.
And this or that. Yeah.
So that's what it was going down to. But, what was cool, though, I was in the heart of Little Italy, where you'd meet so many employees, so many Hispanics, so many people working, and you would learn from everybody. There wasn't nothing I wasn't learning from something, whether it was bad idea or a good idea. And I would as they would bring me somewhere, I would bring them with. If there were someone I could trust, I'd be like, okay, I got you a job, or you got me a job. And so someone hooked me up with a job at Porta Vista. That's why I was there. And that person was like, all right, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go to Anthology, and now it's the Play Box or something right there down the
Music box.
Music Box.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was Anthology, and it's 3 stories, high-end chefs, good food. It's just a high-end place back in the day. And one of the cooks was like, hey, I can get you a job if you want to leave. And that's when I was like, I'm done. He got me a job. So I walked out to the back to do the interview. The chef comes out, and it's this white chef coat, just this tall white guy. And I'm like, oh, shit, like, this is legit. Like, this guy's not playing around, you know? Not that the other chef wasn't, you know, but this guy looked serious. And he's all like, in order for you to get a job here, you need to stage for me 3 weeks. And I'm like, stage? What the hell is staging? He's like, well, you got to work for free. And I'm like, free? And he's all like, yeah, you got to work for me for free for 3 weeks. And if you like it, if I like you, I'm going to keep you. If you don't.
Like an internship.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pay you. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do this.
Wow.
So I got a second job on top of that one, and I started working for free. The chef would call me. I'd be literally loading my truck up to go to the beach, and I'd be at the beach, like, ready to go. And he'd be like, I need you to come down. Put my stuff back in the car.
Testing the waters, right?
And I go down there. Yeah.
He was trying to see if you were going to follow
Commit,
through.
if you could commit it.
So I would go no matter what, day, night, whatever. I was there. You know what I mean? And finally, the 3 weeks were there. He handed me a check, and he's all, this is yours. And I'm like, what's this? He's all, it's your pay for 3 weeks. You got the job. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, thank God. You know, he gave me the money.
Wow.
And he's all like, but now the real work's going to start. I'm like, okay, whatever it takes. You know, just put me on a schedule. I'm ready to work, like, whatever it takes. I had no kids at the time, so I was just, like, really, I was humble.
Yeah.
And from what I was learning from him, I was like, dude, I want this. Like, there was just something that I wanted.
Hey, but when you were talking about, like, making pizzas and being passionate about it, like, when did that kick in? Because you said, like, growing up you weren't really a food like, how do you remember, like, oh shit, this is cool, man?
Just tossing the pizzas and customers coming to me and saying, oh my God, this pizza was amazing, the sandwich is amazing, because we make daily sandwiches. I'd cut the meat fresh in the mornings. I'd do all my prep. I was very organized. I was very, very anal about certain things, because my mom, she was like that. You know, she was particular about everything.
Right.
When we had to clean, she cleaned with bleach. She cleaned, you know, I mean, it became a therapeutic thing for me, you know, at one point. You know, I get anxiety if it's a messy kitchen. I get anxiety if it's just, you know, just drove me crazy. So when customers would come and try my food, they were like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. And so I just got really excited every time I got customers that really liked the food.
Plus, I would imagine everybody, I know me, I appreciate a clean place. Like, right, it tells you, like, oh, wow, this is,
if it doesn't smell like Fabuloso or Clorox, then
sure.
we got a problem.
We got a problem. Exactly. And
so from there, that's why I was curious, because, like, people, when they're successful at what they do, because passion plays a big part.
The real passion started happening in Anthology. That's when it was, like, really kicked in. They threw me on the line the first couple of weeks, and it was
What does that mean?
The line is the kitchen where you'd have, like, the burners, the grill, and it just lines up all the way down to the end. And Anthology was a big place. It would hold up to 700 people, 600 people, or something like that.
Wow.
And it was 3 stories high. And they had an extra kitchen up on top. So when I walked in, it was just, you name it, just like 10 Mexicans on the line, another 3 on the dish pit, another 4 down prepping somewhere. You know, it was just constant. And they're like, all right, you're going to jump right here. And
it's like a manufacturing plant, like,
for real.
Wow.
That's what it was. And the first couple of days, they threw me on fish and scallops. And I was like, I don't know how to cook a scallop for the life of me. So they're like, well, today you're learning. And I ended up being on the fish station for a long time. I would crank out just alone on my own fish dishes 500 plates, you know, in one night. You know, because it was just constant going with just fish and scallops, and, you know, depending on what it was, you know, well, not 500, but like 200 plates based on 700 customers. So it would be sporadic. You know, someone would be doing steaks, someone would be doing pasta, someone would be doing something. You know, there was always something going on. And this was the first place I started learning, like, French techniques, like, you know, reducing sauces and sous vide in bags. And I was just but the chef never really wanted to be like, oh, here, let me teach you this. No, I had to like, can I work? Or I had to pop my head over and be like, what's going on here? You know, I stood for hours. Sometimes I would work for free. Like, I would be clocked off and, you know, off my 8 hours, and I'd still work for another 3 hours, like, doing whatever he asked me to do, you know? It was just constant.
But it's key, man. Like, I hear it all the time with successful people, like, they stay late. They were the first ones, and they were like
The last one's out.
squeaky wheel. Gets the oil, kind of a thing. But it's good. But I was gonna ask you about that. Like, you get to that place, and it seems like it's busy and it's crazy, and 700 people, and it was never overwhelming to you. It kind of gave you
always overwhelming. We had a time schedule, but the thing was, at that time, restaurants were crazy. You had drunks, alcoholics, drugs. It was constant. There was, always partying after work. There was constant, this was the lifestyle back in the day. You just didn't stop. You worked hard, and then you partied hard, and then you did it again the next day. And so, you'd have so many employees just constantly doing something. I remember, I became an alcoholic at one point, because we would literally take our break and I would pound a tall boy. It came to a point where I was pounding 2 tall boys right before my half hour was done, and I would jump the line.
Wow.
We would buy a 32 pack and put it in the mop area, fill it up with ice, and we'd be like back and forth, all of us
picking one
up, pounding it, and it was that crazy, but we would still go at it. And
sounds like it was like fuel, man.
Oh yeah, it was our thing. And you'd have like 2 or 3 monsters under the bottom, or Red Bulls, and you'd just be like, all right, let's go, next thing. Wow. But you wouldn't think with time it wouldn't pay off. Obviously,
Right.
it'd catch up to you,
Right.
But it got to a point where the chef was like, he quit, he moved on, he ended up doing something. I thought, okay, well, a new chef's gonna come in, I can learn from this chef. And it just wasn't intriguing to me no more. It was just like, I don't feel like, being involved with the chefs that are coming in, because I wasn't excited.
Right.
So I just moved on. I ended up applying for a position at Brit Scripts. It's an old vintage house right here on 4th Avenue. And it's a bed and breakfast. I ended up applying for that job. I'm still working at Anthology, but I was like, not working as much, kind of
One foot out the door.
Yeah, and I was doing my own thing at the bed and breakfast, which I love, because I was the personal chef. Whenever the main chef wasn't there, I was working there, and I was doing for the guests that were in there, and I was doing personal breakfast for them at that moment. I would create a menu that day. I would only work Saturday and Sundays because that's when the other chef was off. And I would create these little menus and for these guests. And eventually I looked for another job, and that's when I got the position at the Red Door, where I started off my career. Like, it really popped off from there. But I started as a dishwasher, line cook there.
At the Red Door?
At the Red Door.
Even though you already had all this experience and all?
Yeah. People don't believe, or they don't think, you have to prove it and show it. You
probably didn't have a degree. And
yeah, I didn't have nothing. So it wasn't something that I was like, okay, I couldn't cook a steak for the life of me if I wanted to, because I was working the fish station for so long.
Right.
That if I wanted to cook a filet mignon, it was like I didn't know how to do it.
So you didn't feel offended at all
No.
You actually embraced it.
Yeah, I wanted to learn whatever it took. That's why I jumped around so many places. When I was at Chef Lou's, I was doing sushi at the same time when I was doing pizza, or I was doing Asian food while I was doing the pizza. I was always had 3 or 2 jobs. Wow. I never stopped. I was always hustling, whether I was, doing something bad hustling or doing something good. It's just
hustling.
That's exactly. You have to survive, and that's where I survived. But when I went to Red Door, I started picking up from that chef his techniques, and even to this day, I still use some of his French techniques that he taught me.
Wow.
Like I still remember some of the dishes that he taught me, and I don't let them go, because they're just so part of me. Eventually the chef, he got let go. I showed them what I could do, so they started giving me a little wiggle room. They're like, okay, we'll give you a promotion. Here you go. You got the position, as this. And then the owner's son, same with him, he had some issues, and then he came back, and we became really good friends. He ended up eventually becoming the general manager of the place. I started moving up, and they started hiring more chefs to kind of educate me, and they couldn't hang. When it came down to the nitty gritty of it, like when we would get busy, because we would get really busy at Red Door, we were starting to become a real true farm to table restaurant. The owner wanted to open up a garden and, provide fresh vegetables coming from there. She wanted to transition
farm to table.
She wanted to really do the true farm to table, which is all organic and all fresh stuff. start learning from all these chefs, but they couldn't really hatch it. So then eventually with time, they're like, you know what? You're executive chef. You're going to take it. They hired someone, and he ended up was like, I got to go. And it was during restaurant week. And that's when it really kicked off for me. It was like, okay, we have so many beef wontons we got to put out for so many hundreds of people. Restaurant week at that time was like epic. It was crazy. Like you were booked up for the whole week, 2 weeks, and you had to be ready. You had to be prepped and ready to go. And during that week, that chef was like, I got to go. I'm done. Whatever. I was like, all right.
Oh,
Here we go.
Wow.
And so I remember the first day it happened, I was cutting steaks, fillets, and I had to cut like so many pounds, like 100 pounds of fillets, break them all down, cut them into the portion size I needed to do. And at this time, I didn't know nothing about food cost or labor or what it took. I just knew get the food out, get it out the door, do good, and let's do it. And I ended up slicing my thumb that day, which is the scars right here. Sliced my thumb open from top to bottom. It was about 2 inches deep with a knife. All right, I just finished with all the fillets too.
Oh, at least you got those out of the way.
Yeah, I got them out of the way.
look at this guy.
They're like, you need to go to the doctor. I said, no, I can't. Who's going to run the line? Who's going to, I was expediting. So I wrapped it up that day. I stopped it from bleeding. I said, I'll go later once I'm done here. Wrapped it up. I kept going. I kept going. I expedited the whole night until we were done. And that was the day that I was like, okay, this is my calling. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I didn't care if I was bleeding, sweating, tired at the end of the day. It was just something about me getting it done that really kind of pushed me to the next level.
How old were you at that point when you
I was
like,
I think
knew?
25
Okay.
at the time.
Okay.
And I was a baby, like for a chef, like who is this guy? And then it showed the owners and the owner at the time, Trish Wallington, who owns the Wallington at the time and the Red Door. We had the Steak and Martini Lounge, and I had 2 restaurants in one kitchen. So for me to run 2 restaurants in one kitchen and no experience was like big for me,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But she put a lot of time and effort in me. The son put a lot of time. Her husband put a lot of time and effort in me. They believed in me. They pushed me. They pushed me so hard.
Wow.
Eventually that I ended up breaking, but still we pushed each other to where we got. They would put me on social media, on the news and papers and anything. We got a PR girl to teach me how to talk. Do the walk, basically, and I was like, I'm ready. Like, let's do this. Whatever you need me to do. I love this family. I'm willing to sacrifice everything I could to make this happen,
Wow.
And throughout the time, obviously, I got married, I had 2 kids, and it just, my career was just skyrocketed. I started going anywhere I could to make the restaurant successful.
Did you ever stop and think about like your own personal style or your own type of cuisine that you wanted to focus on, or was it just
No.
I'll take everything and learn a little bit of everything?
No, at the time, we were opening up the restaurant. What helped me really create my own techniques and my own style was the garden. We opened a quarter acre garden in Mount Helix, La Mesa in her backyard, all organic. And she started from scratch too. So she would drop off so many different veggies, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this. So I would have to start like learning how to progress and start breaking certain things down, making jams, jellies, whatever. I was Googling all day long if I had to just start looking up certain things. I would pick up recipes, but I was like, I'm going to tweak this and do it different, or I'm going to change that and do it different. And eventually we still kept things that the old chef had, but how can I make it better? Or what can I do different? Or how can I make a different style? So I just started creating my own little techniques on things, and eventually we got so many certain dishes that people were like, you take that off the menu, we're never coming back. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I have to change it up, I can't just, and it was crazy, people were just coming back for certain things that they just were like, don't take that off the menu, don't change it, please, like, keep it as. So I kept things on there, but I had to change like a couple things to make it seasonal.
Right.
Because tomatoes I couldn't get tomatoes if we're a farm table during a certain season. So instead of making pico de gallo out of tomatoes, I would get persimmons at the time during when I make a persimmon pico de gallo. or a
Right.
beet pico de gallo or a cucumber, whatever was just like an abundance of what we had. Sometimes she would bring me barrels of cucumbers. I would have to create multiple dishes of cucumbers.
That that is crazy how people get passionate about a certain food or plate,
Yeah.
and for them to get a like that to ask you like, hey man, please don't touch it. That's because that's
Yeah, it was crazy. I just got, sometimes I would get overwhelmed. She'd bring bags of kale, and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do with all that? And my thing was not to waste. We were trying not to waste it all. We were doing our own compost bins. We were doing everything, and we were one of the restaurants that were doing it. Other people weren't doing it at the time. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't organic. Wasn't a thing. Or,
right.
having your own garden. You would see this stuff in LA, you would see it in New York, but not in San Diego. Which was kind of weird because we had the weather for it.
Now, why do you think that did that happen? Because of you didn't want to waste food,
The owner was very passionate about it. She grew up in poor at the time when they got married, and they had their own farm. They grew their own vegetables, and so that's what she wanted to bring back. She's all about the organic and the freshness, and it showed. That's what made our food so good. It's that our stuff was fresh. You can get it as fresh as possible, and it was organic, and it tasted so much different from a commodity tomato. And it taught me so much that, like, what are we eating? What are we putting in our systems? What are we putting in our body? Like constant, and it showed what you were eating, at the time. There's so much chemicals, and I learned it also from being in the orchard, from being in as a researcher. I was
just gonna ask you about that. Like maybe like it's funny how life works. Like maybe the job you were doing back then at Washington State at the time it was just a job, but now
it transversed back.
Yeah.
It showed me like, oh yeah, these pesticides are being sprayed, and they are going into these apples. They are going into into our soil, and that's what taught me a lot. And those are some of the things I do now in my restaurant. We don't do it 100% because that's not what they're looking for. They're not trying to go bankrupt. Obviously, because
Right.
if you have the money to back you up, go for it, do it. But that's sometimes for fun for some people. Some restaurants just can't do it. They can't afford it. But if you can do your research and look around, you'll find what you need. It's you got to put a little extra work into it.
How important or was the fact that she wanted to go from farm to table, was that important to you? Was that attracted to you?
Yeah, it was. It was something different. It was something that people weren't doing. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. Put this on my notch of my belt. It's something else I can do. And so I ended up just grinding myself out, and I worked so hard that I just got so fed up. We ended up getting in fights and issues, and I ended up saying I have to go. I can't do this. I ended up hiring another chef to take my position. I put my notice in. I trained her as much, and she did great. She was all what they wanted, everything. She knew the farm to table. She was organic, and she loved the whole thing. I left my whole staff behind and everything, and they were great staff, But it was just something I needed to do to transition myself, because I didn't know a lot of things. I didn't know how to do cost out a menu. I didn't know how to cost out a dish or labor or what it was. I would go to these meetings and, okay, create these menus, but now you got to cost something out. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And they would bring people in to try and teach me, but it just wasn't working. So eventually I left. I applied for a job with the Cohen Group, which everybody knows in San Diego, the Cohen Group. They own like 26 restaurants, Sea Level, Island Prime, Melting Pot, you name it. I can go on for days.
Which restaurant were you working at?
Hunter Wines in Hillcrest.
Okay.
Now it's Bobo.
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I ended up getting a position there, and I just used my knowledge that I had from Red Door, but they didn't want to do the whole like organic. I was like, don't worry, I could still do what I love and give you the food you need without having to jeopardize your costs. I said, they're a big company. They taught me that, when you're buying in bulk, you can get cheaper products. So if I knew someone was using heirloom tomatoes at another restaurant with their group, I would jump and piggyback on that. And I'd be like, okay, I want that price. And that's why I was able to put out such good food at 100 Wines. We were packed. We were making money. We were busy all the time. But they did good promotion. But they taught me how to food costs. They taught me how to do labor. They would put me in classes, their own stuff. They have the ability to do that. So they would teach me as I was going the real
you were
fundamentals
hungry
of
for the knowledge.
the business. Yeah, because I couldn't afford college. Couldn't go back to culinary school and then pay $60,000, and then I'm like in debt. And I was teaching a lot of these students that were coming in, and I'm like, don't go to college. Don't go to culinary school. They're like, why? I said, just work with me 6 months, and I will show you what you need to know, and you'll get a job. Like, it's all about putting the effort and then putting your resume and putting down what you're able to do. It's constantly working. It's hands-on. You know, you're not going to learn hands-on on a car how to fix it until you get in there. And a lot of times you're wasting all this time instead of just learning how to do it. And so I know these students would come in and they're in debt. And I'm like, $60,000, $80,000. I'm like, well, I'm not doing that, you know? But I would get some people who, like, I'd get maybe a handful within time and be like, I'm done with school. I want to learn, and I want to learn what you. But what was crazy about that stuff is that when they start learning, they would take and then they would leave. So I was at some points I was very hesitant. I'm like, who am I going to give the opportunity to learn from me? Because I'm not going to just teach you everything and then you're gone and then that's it. You know, I'm out of a worker. And then it was such a high turnover at the Cohen Group. I was constantly working. I was working 80 hours a week.
Wow.
Yeah. When employees were gone, I was the one working because I was a salary guy. So, you know, I busted my butt off there, but, you know, we were doing good. I ended up working there for a good year and a half. And then I got a hit from a person. They were like, hey, you know, we're going to open up a restaurant. We need a consultant to open this restaurant in Hillcrest. Do you want to jump in it? And I was like, yeah, you know. So at the time I was going back and forth and I needed to make some extra money. And right next to 100 Wines was a bar called Flicks. It's a gay bar. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go over there. And I knew the owners. I was very good friends with them. And I was like, hey, can I start slinging tacos here? I had my own little wagon. I bought myself a wagon because I wanted to use it for my
What do you mean a wagon?
Like a
carreta?
Taquero.
Ah,
And
nice.
so I bought it, you know, I was like, you know, just in case emergency things go down, I can, you know, if I want to do a party at my house, I don't have to pay the extra fees or whatever.
Right.
It paid itself. So I ended up going to the bar and they're like, yeah, go for it. Post up here. And I would be there from midnight until 4 a.m. with my pockets full of cash, just because they would just come out drunk, you know, like it was
It's perfect.
$3, $4 well drinks, and they would just come out smashed. And I would sell bacon wrap hot dogs and little taquitos, dollar tacos, and I would come home.
love it, man. I love the hustle, man. No,
Yeah.
you gotta be humble. You gotta,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You don't have to.
So I was doing that at the time, and I was still doing the consulting job that they had. And this was my first consulting job. It was called Tabletop Commons, and it was a game, like a gamers bar type place. And this place is cursed too. It's right in front of the Marrow Room. It's a little. We used to call it the Ruby Room back in the day. I think it's called the Marrow now. But it's right in front of there, and you know, I was constantly hustling there too. You know, I was learning how to become. I got their kitchen open, and eventually I worked my way up to front of house, and I ended up running their whole front of house situation that they had going on.
What does that mean, front of house?
So you got back of house and you got front of house, which is back of house is the kitchen, the front of house is the servers and bartenders.
Okay.
And so I ended up just moving my way. I got the kitchen set up, ready to go. Their menu was right, and I was able to kill 2 birds with one stone because then I could still do my job as a chef, keep an eye on them and tell them what to do, plus able to do the payroll and do all the other stuff I needed to do in front of house without having to have more costs. Because a lot of times you're paying for a chef and then you're paying for a general manager. I was like, look, I could do both jobs. It's not a problem. You know what I mean? I can dabble in both. Just, you know, keep it open for me that I can still have my family intact and we're good to go. Eventually it just started kind of boring me, and I was done with
Really?
it. I was just like, it was just too much. It was just like the whole scene wasn't my scene. It wasn't something I really wanted to do, and I was okay with it, but I just didn't want to be there no more because the owners were just different. They didn't know my concept of what it was to run a business. A lot of these people who want to open restaurants, they're just new at it, and they're like, oh, we want to open a restaurant. We got money. Like, let's do this. I'm like, you know what it's gonna take. it's going to take every little bit of your life to get by the end of the year and get there, you know? So I would still go back and forth to Red Door and talk to the son. You know, he was my friend and everything like that. And I, you know, one day I was like, you know, if you need me, you need my help, you know, I'm more than happy because they were having trouble with the chef at the time. If you need my help, I'm more than happy to come back and, you know, help you out and, you know, whatever you need. I can do the food costs or while she's busy. They're like, yeah, we're going to let her go. I said, well, if you need me to come back, I'm more than happy to come back to Red Door. And they ended up taking me back at Red Door. So I came back with like a vengeance. Like I was like,
Because by then you had made kind of like the rounds. You had picked up all this knowledge from others. So now it's basically I knew you.
yeah.
And what they knew of you, but now you came back with
Oh yeah.
guns blazing.
I came back with like knowing I had to have my own contract. You know, I didn't know about contracts until Cone Group. You know, I didn't know I needed to have a certain salary. I didn't know I had to have, you know, I was making nothing at the time, you know, before. And then until I met the Cone Group, they're like, well, you're worth this much. You know, I was making $70,000 with the Cone Group at the time. And I didn't think that was like possible. It was like, oh, okay. And you get a 3 weeks vacation, plus you get $100, you know, voucher for food. Plus we're going to give you bonuses if you hit these marks. And, you know, if you get our labor down, if you do this, we'll give you a certain amount of bonus a year. I'm like, dude, like, what is this? So I brought that back to Red Door and I was like, look, I'm more than happy to give you everything you're asking for as long as we can hit these marks and I can get bonuses and I can get, so I ended up becoming a $70,000 and $80,000 chef. So I was like, perfect. You know, I was able to do all these things that I needed to do for them. We were working the restaurants, the garden. I was coming up with all these new ideas and new techniques and new dishes. And my plates were coming out so different now. Like I went from like 0 to 100 in a year and a half.
Did you ever, during that period, did you ever kind of stop and think about like how far you've come, like from flipping pizzas?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking it all the time. But, you know, I always stayed humble. That was my main thing. Like, I was always, thank you. I'm very appreciative of where I was and what I did and how I was. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, being cocky and arrogant, it's not going to get you nowhere. And people are not going to respect you. And that's why I still have my employees that I have today that I've been working with them for 10 years. They're with me now. Because if it wasn't for me being humble and, you know, thank you and appreciative for what they did, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be who I am. Right. My employees are everything to me. You know, they gave me the foundation to get higher and higher. They're the ones that will be like, okay, get on my back, get over that wall. Come on, go. You're going to take us the rest of the way. You know, and I was like, all right, I promise, you know. And, you know, when this whole issue happened and I opened up the restaurant.
So what happened? Because you were banging at a Red Door again, and you were doing your thing.
Yeah,
and it was blowing up. And so what happened then?
You know, we did a good year of everything was great, and then I was giving them a concept of revamping the Wellington because it was dead. The Wellington Steak and Martini Lounge, it was the high cost of steaks. You know, not enough business coming in. It was you know, but I just wanted to revamp it. They ended up going all out and putting so much money into it. I was like, all right, I guess, you know, I mean, I'm fine with it, but I wouldn't do all that, but whatever, it's your money. Ended up putting us in a bad position. The business started going. There was a lot of money lost into the revamp. And then eventually they had to start selling. And during that time, I was going through a divorce, you know, and I went through a crazy depression. I was thinking suicidal thoughts. You know, I was going through I was drinking. I was doing at least an 8-ball of Coke a week. You know, I was just going crazy. I was losing it. I was losing it. I got so skinny. I was still trying to work, and I was like going through so many issues at the time. You know, it was a problem.
Right.
I remember even being in front of U.S. Bank in Mission Hills, and I was in my chef coat, and I was ready to jump in front of cars. Like to just end my life. I was just done.
What was it? I mean, obviously divorce is but it was every like overwhelming, just too many things going on.
Well, you know, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment for a long time. I lived with her mom, and I lived with, you know, so I was going through a lot of things with her at the time, and you know, I got so fed up at one point. I was like, I want a divorce. And then we took a trip, and then we were like, okay, let's get back together or whatever. And we made it work. We went through a whole year, and this was the time when I got the job back at Red Door, and everything was great. And then she wanted a divorce, and it just broke my heart. And it just got to a point where it was like, I just went crazy. I was like, I lost it, just lost it completely. But the day I was in front of US Bank, I saw my kids pop up in my head, like literally, like physically, like I was like, whoa. And I was super drunk, and I stopped myself, and I went cross back, and I went to one of my cooks, and it's one of my best friends, and I just like let it all out completely. And he's like, dude, you just got to be patient. You know, God's got a path for all of us, or the universe got a path for us. You know, I believe in a lot of different things. God, universe,
me too.
you know, I mean, there's not just one thing.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, you know, I got through a little bit, and then that's when their owners were like, okay, we're gonna sell the place. And it kind of worked out, because at the time when I was going through a divorce, she hit me with the lawyer, and she's like, okay, I want so much money. And I was like, I can't afford that. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy, because I was making good money at the
I
time.
don't have a job. They just
Like,
sold
yeah,
the place.
for real. And so, you know, I fought, you know, so much for my kids, because I wanted 50-50 custody for my kids. And at the time I was like, you know what, I'm done with work. It was a blessing that I ended up, you know, they ended up selling it, because I went back to the courts, and they're like, well, he doesn't have to, but you have to look for a job that makes that same amount of money. But I had a certain schedule with my kids that we were already set with the mediators and all that. And I was like, I can't work a 80-hour job or a 60-hour job with my kids. Like, I have to pay for childcare.
Doesn't add
So
up.
I tried, and I was literally getting jobs offered 100,000, no problem. But they needed me. They needed my blood and sweat.
80, 120 hours a week.
And I'm like, I can't. But when I went to court, I was like, look, I applied, I got the jobs, but I can't, because my kids come first. And that's what I said to myself when I went through the door. I said, I'm going to put my kids first on everything now. You know, it was unfortunate I didn't do that to my family at the time, but I decided, I was like, you know what, if I'm not going to have my family, I'm going to put my kids 110% always. And I still do to this day. And that's what's put me where I'm at right now, you know. I ended up fighting all the way, and I ended up getting my 50-50 custody with my kids, and now I have them, you know. But at the time, it was like, okay, now I got to look for work, you know, like, what am I going to do? And my friend is a good friend of mine. He does fish tacos. His name's Casanova. He's a really cool guy. I knew him, you know, meeting at the farmer's market. He always makes fun of me, because he said I always walk around with a quaint basket and looking for vegetables at the farmer's market. I'm like, get the hell out of here. I'm like, but this guy had like these aviator, he used to be a cop back, and then he had these aviator glasses. So I make fun of him. And so, but he's like, hey, I met these two guys, these two white guys, and they wanted to open up this restaurant, you know, a distillery somewhere, and I don't want to open my brick and mortar yet. So I told him to talk to you. Literally an hour later, my boss Bill, and good friend, calls me. He's all like, hey, you know, Casanova recommended you. You know, want to know if you want to consult for us. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Like, where do I sign? You know, so I asked for a certain amount. I actually reached out to a couple chefs. They're like, I've never really consulted like with contracts and all that stuff, because they wanted a contract, they wanted everything. So I reached out to one of the chefs I know, and his name's Jack Monaco. He's a very well-known chef here in San Diego, veteran, and he's like, here, I'm gonna give you one, just revise it your way, and you're good to go. And
wow.
If it wasn't for him, you know what I mean, I wouldn't be able to be consulting the way maybe it would have cost me an arm and a leg, because he paid for a lawyer, but to do this, but he helped me out. And
wow.
I had a friend of mine, Michelle, too. She helped me out go through the divorce and legal issues and everything. You know, I was going to the courthouse at 6 a.m. just to make sure that I was the first in line to making sure that things were getting done. At the same time, I'm trying to consult and learn how to take care of my kids. I never really took care of, because I was always working all these hours. So I'm learning how to have to pay my own rent, how to pay my own water bill, how to write a check. You know, I'm like, I was always so dependent on my ex-wife to do everything. I was like, here's the check, just make sure the bills are paid and we're good. Now it's like on me. I had to abide by the schedule, abide by what's going on with the court. On top of that, I had to really manage the consulting part and give them true numbers of like, because this is their life, you know, they're spending all these millions of dollars or thousands of dollars to making sure this restaurant, these numbers better be right, you know. And so I had to really hit the books and really learn how to do everything.
Yeah, man.
And it's been 3 years now. I've been with Liberty Call.
Hey, but going back to when we started, hustling, man. Oh, you know, just it's the hustle. It never ends.
It never ends. It never stopped for me. You know, I got locked up hustling. I did multiple years in jail, and I did. You know, I almost killed a guy back in the day. You know, getting drunk. I hit him in the head with a rock. I got 16 staples. I was gonna get first degree assault with a deadly weapon. You know, so these are the things that I went through my whole life. But you know, I mean, pursuing myself and making sure I push myself and not do these things again, my mistakes, you know, I had to learn from my mistakes, you know?
Right.
And that's what really kind of pushed me to do what I am. My kids are my everything. My 2 boys, Max and Luca, like, I would do anything for these kids. You know, they're the reason I cook the way I cook, you know? They put me to a position where I don't know how to explain it. You know, it gets me emotional because I worked so hard to making sure that they have a good life that I didn't have. And I want them to have it, you know?
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
So every time you cook, you're there in your
In my
mind
head.
and your heart.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a trip.
Yeah. So, you know, I have to, you know,
Yeah.
because no one's going to give them anything, you know, I have to provide for them, you know, and I don't know what the situation is with their moms because we keep it.
Kind
Hey, you do your part, I do my part.
of, right.
And that's it. Making sure that they're healthy, they're eating, and everything's going on.
You know, you mentioned God in there for a half a second, and I'm a believer, and I know that God doesn't give us, and I've mentioned this before here, that God doesn't give us more than what we can handle, right?
Yeah.
Like He pushes us to the very, very edge.
Oh, yeah.
But it all comes down to He's got a plan and He's got our back. And obviously, you know, I've been through some shit for sure, but He's always been there. Like I should have gone to jail for stupid shit too, probably when I was really young. But He always just had His hand on me, pulling me back and guiding me along the way. It sounds like the very, very similar thing happened to you.
You know, it's He's testing.
Yeah.
It's constant testing. And it's a challenge. It's like, what is He going to do next?
Right.
And it's like, I have to make the right decisions, you know. And, you know, this last year, it's been going crazy for me, you know, with the restaurant opening up, you know, me and my girlfriend going through a lot of situations, and my kids, you know, my girlfriend has 2 kids, and now it's like a Brady Bunch, you know.
Yeah,
It's Brady Bunch. I was just gonna say that.
It's
A
crazy.
lot of people don't know nowadays, but they're Brady Bunch.
I met my girlfriend, you know, after, you know, right when we're going through a divorce, but it was weird because I met her kids first because we went to the same Catholic school, and they went to the same Catholic. So I was like, okay, I knew her kids, and then eventually, you know, my ex-wife's like, can you drop off the kids to a birthday party, and you know, and that's where I met her, and you know, she's opened up my eyes a lot too. You know, she's shown me about peace, and like I never even got to see a sunset ever until I met her.
Really?
I was like, I never thought about those things when I was a teenager. Like, oh, let me go see a sunset and just relax and enjoy this stuff, or enjoy the amenities of what we have here in San Diego. And when I met her, she's like, you really never done this? I'm like, no, like this is weird. So for me to like stay still and calm, it's hard because I'm a chef, so I'm just constantly going and thinking different things, you know.
It's a trip because I think our businesses are similar. We're both in the broadcast world, and for myself, it's like you really get sucked in. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and you get sucked in at the early stages of it, just wanting to, same as you, acquire the knowledge and advance and advance and advance. And all that just takes time away from family.
Always.
You know, and it takes away, but to tell you what, my biggest blessing is my wife in my world is she always grounded me. She's always like, you're going to take the weekend off.
Yeah.
You're going to take Saturday off. We've got some sort of family engagement, but it's making that time for the family. There'll always be work.
Yeah.
There will always be work.
Yeah.
You'll always find a job somewhere, but the years that we lose with our family working, you don't get those back.
One of the things I promised myself when I started working with Liberty Call was like, I'm going to tell them my kids come first. And if they can't accept that, and that's with any job, because I've consulted while I was consulting with them, I was consulting other places too, because we were still in the transition open restaurants. And I said, look, my kids come first. You take me, or you take me and my kids, or nothing at all. And literally, like 90% of all the places I've consulted for, they're like, come on in, bring your kids in, let them sit down right there. We'll feed them. We'll take care of them. They know a kitchen better than any other chef that's out there. They'll walk in the back and they'll know what certain things. They know where the dish pit's at. They know what the hotline is. You know, they've been going in the kitchen since they were in a rocker, you know? So, you know, what Bill and Mark did for me by bringing my kids in was big for me. And I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of stuff for that company because they put my kids first. You know, for them to do that, that doesn't happen a lot of times.
Right.
You know, but that showed that they're family oriented and they give me the time for my kids. They give me my Sunday, Mondays off. I'm the one that puts myself like, I'm going to go on Sunday. I'm like, come on, boys, let's go. We're going to go to work real quick. And they know. They grab their iPads, let's go. And they sit down and they get pancakes, breakfast, you know, feed them some fries. Go get them, you know, they know who to go ask, you know, one of my workers. And they just know, you know, and I appreciate that from my bosses. Like they're one of the best bosses I've ever had in my life, you know. They're understanding, and that's what I need in my life, you know.
Absolutely. You know, and it's so your life gets so much better when you go to work and there's not, you know, drama and just to be able to have that. I mean, and I know you appreciate it, so you're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, like I tell Bill and Mark, like, you guys are my best friends, like all the time, because they understand me. They've seen me go through all these transitions in the past 3 years, and they've really been true friends to me besides my bosses.
Right.
But they also have been educating me and teaching me a lot of stuff. Like Bill's been distilling for 10 years, you know, so probably more. And I've been learning from him all his trades. And then Mark, he's the numbers guy, and he's what I look up to. You know, I love to save my money. I'm a penny pincher. I'm cheap about certain things, you know, because I grew up that way. But
Right.
I wouldn't have my extra little savings if it wasn't for stuff like that, from learning from people like Mark, you know. And that's what really puts us together. Like, they love the fact that I'm a hard worker and then I'm like just constantly going, and then I can teach them. Like, I tell them all the time, like, I'm not forever. Like, I'm giving you all this knowledge right now because I want you guys to be successful without me. Like, I want you guys to be able to run this restaurant knowing that, okay, what if Chef Miguel's not here right now? Like, can we still keep going? And then I just did my job right.
Wow.
I did my job right.
See, that's also hard to find. Throughout your life, you run into all these situations when you're hungry for knowledge and just in an opportunity, and other people are quick to kind of stomp you or hold you back. I got a real good friend that I can think of right now that back in the day, he was, we work in the broadcast business, and he was teaching these other people. And I remember I asked him, I was just starting, and I was like, hey man, you don't worry about, you know, them taking your job eventually. And he was like, man, if they get to be as good or better than me, God bless them. And that's the way it is. And because he's like that, I mean, he's always got a job. He's always been in demand because, you know, and that's such a cool approach. And it's like your approach, like, hey man, it's not a job to you. You want to set them up. And that's saying a lot.
I want them to call me back. I want them to be like, hey, we got another restaurant going, you know? Sorry about that. I want them to open another restaurant. I want them to, you know, go
succeed
and be like, hey, Miguel, calm down right now. We need you to set this up. Get going. Do the same thing you did last time. Do it again. I want to cookie cut every little thing possible because I don't want the same mistakes. I had an old chef tell me, he's all like, I'm giving you the answers because I don't want you falling. I don't want you tripping over those situations. If I was a bad chef, I wouldn't give you the answer and I would just let you fall and then ruin. I used to have an old chef of mine who would let me make a sauce or a soup, and he'd be like, this is garbage. And he'd throw the whole thing away. Obviously, it was in a hotel, so the food cost was nothing to him. But still, I was like, why don't you just teach me to do it the right way? And it wouldn't have that situation. You know, and everybody has their own ways of teaching. But for me, I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste money. I don't want to waste food. I'm not there to waste food at all because I know what food's like. I've gone hungry before.
Right,
I've been
right.
poor before. So for me, it's like that's sin
Such a
for sure.
yes,
you know?
absolutely.
And there's people starving out there. So it's like it's ignorance. It's stuff that I don't want my staff to learn that kind of stuff. I want to give them the answer now. Hey, wait. There's a rock right there. Why don't you hop over that real quick?
Or that's a way to do it for sure. But why don't you try it this way? Look.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And that's what's really put me where I'm at now. You know, it's like my life's changed in the past 3 years with this company. You know, they taught me a lot. And now, you know, I've obviously grown throughout the years learning my mistakes. And I just want new cooks and new chefs who want to do this, if they really want to sign up for it, you know, do it, you know what I mean? But
Be careful what you wish for,
exactly.
right? Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're not out there no more. It's hard. It's a lost talent. Like no one wants to work for free no more. No one wants to, you know.
Do you think that a lot of these chef shows, you know, these competition shows that were on air, do you think there was a big flux of new people thinking that they could cook and wanting to get into the business,
Absolutely.
and then finding out it's not quite as glamorous as they thought it was going to be?
Absolutely.
Right?
I applied for Top Chef and I was going to get the position. I went to the last interview, didn't get it. The chef it was for the New Orleans episode, the chef actually got kicked out in the first session. I would have definitely gone farther, you know,
Yeah.
but, you know, and I've been on Guys Groceries, but these shows have definitely created other chefs who are successful. Don't get me wrong, who can just pick it up and then they're out. But then it's also brought up these other ones. I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, you know, you have not grinded at all. You've worked in a couple high-end restaurants and you think you're already going to be a sous chef. You're already going to be a chef. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Like, you're tripping.
Right.
You know, like it took me years to get where I'm at. And I didn't ask for it. I took it.
Right.
You know, and someone didn't give it to me. I took it. You know, like you think you're going to ask me without, you know, being respectful or saying please or give me the opportunity or like, can I just come in and try some stuff out and see if it works? You know, they just want to jump in it and it doesn't really play out for them. You know, it's like you have to learn from the bottom and be as humble as possible.
I think that's why I wasn't really surprised, but when you said going back to the Red Door and starting dishwashing and stuff, you didn't even take offense to that. That's great because that's the mentality you gotta have. Like, hey man, there's something to be learned here.
I figure if you learn everything, you're that person they're gonna need. Okay, you know, we don't have a dishwasher. All right, who can wash dishes? Right here. You're still paying me $30 an hour to wash dishes. I give two shits.
But I'll get the job done.
I'm gonna get the job done. You know, me being, I was a chef and consultant, but you know, they gave me the opportunity at Liberty Call. They're like, okay, you know, you're gonna be front of house manager now. I'm able to do that because of what I went through. I'm able to become a bartender because of what I've been able to. I can go in the back and at least pour a beer. I can go, okay, they're fine here in the bar. Let me go drop in the back kitchen. Let me jump on the line real quick. Okay, they're stuck. Let me get them out of the weeds. Okay, let me go do some paperwork now. I can do anything you're really asking me to do. If you really want me to make some sushi, I can make sushi. You want me to make a burger? Fine, pizza. Let's do this. You know, there's nothing I can't learn. If I can't learn it, I'm going to Google it. Simple as that.
So those are just making stuff skills.
Yeah.
You know, but what about people skills? How'd you learn to manage people?
That was the Cohen Group helped me with that. They chewed me out. I was an asshole. I was a freaking asshole because of what I was taught from these chefs. They're like, yes, chef, no, chef. Get the fuck out of here. Here you go. This is shit. This is garbage, you know? And
Wow.
I wasn't treating people like that either, but, you know, I was very ignorant and very, like, verbal about certain things. I was like, no, that's not good, or that's garbage, or whatever, you know? And it got to a point where, you know, HR came in. They're like, we need to talk to you real quick. And I'm like, all right, what's going on? And it was literally like, I remember I was sitting at the table and there was like 8 of them sitting right there. And the owner's like, this can't happen no more. We love you. Your food's amazing, but we will let you go in a heartbeat if this situation go. And it taught me. And then I had to take a class. They made me take a class with their company to learn how to be respectful during certain things, or things you can't do and things you can say.
Did you after you went through that training and you started changing your ways, did you see a a difference in how people responded to you? And
Yeah and no.
but I mean, that's the,
You know what I mean?
It's because I don't know. Let me interject because I don't know if this is true, but I'm old school, and it's like, yeah, I've been there, and let me just tell you how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it my way because I know how to get the job done, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get out of here in time, and we're gonna go home.
Exactly.
I can sit here and listen to your opinion or this or that, but the bottom line is I'm in charge. Let's do it my way. When you're in charge, I'll do it your way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly. And that's, I mean, sometimes still people can't fathom to listen to someone else. And that's where put me where I'm at because I did whatever I was told. Like, okay, yes, chef. Yes, chef, no, chef. That's all I knew. That's all I knew. And some of these people don't even call you chef now these days. Like, they'll call me by my first name. I'm like, no, my name's chef.
yeah, I earned that.
I earned that
Yeah,
name.
thank
Like
you.
I earned chef. Like you don't call me by Miguel. And if I respect them and I think it's gonna go too far, I'm like, you can call me Miguel. It's not a problem. I'm not gonna like blow up. But if also you come in with cockiness and you come in with this like arrogance, then I'm gonna be like, dude, you're coming with a rude awakening, bro. Like this is tripping. Like I'm right now grinding and cleaning my kitchen. I just changed from this.
yeah,
to
we're
my
talking
clothes.
about that. Like and that's another thing that you don't. It's something. Some people like to shout and yell and do whatever, and especially because they have the position. And I really don't mind that. Especially, I don't mind it when at the end of the day I see him scrubbing floors or doing whatever. It's like, oh shit! Well, he gets down.
He
to
does.
it, too.
He does. He walks the walk and talks the talk and walks the
Right.
walk.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I have staff that I've been working for 10, 12 years, and they're with me now.
Right.
Like I was blessed, thank God. Like when I opened this restaurant, I called them and I was like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Well, we actually just got fired from Red Door. I'm like, the Red Door now that's going on. I'm like, what? Is he fucking crazy? I was like, are you serious? I said, I got a job for you right now. Come here now. I will cut my hours behind if I have to so you can work. Like I need you in the restaurant. Don't worry about me. I need bodies in here now so I can get this place going and I can move out. And if it wasn't for them, like the restaurant wouldn't be how it is now because it's just the consistency. I could teach them something and it's done. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're the backbone and everything like that, but I'm like, I have to guide them. I have to tell them like, here you go. They're this, and that.
Just like anywhere else, they need a leader.
Structure. But once they got it down, it's down. And it's like I can literally leave the restaurant now. Yeah, there'll be some issues, but they would have to hire some management. But I can leave it and I'll be comfortable with it. And I'm
So you don't micromanage.
I don't.
That's good. That's
I
good.
used to micromanage because I had to because there was idiots that would come in and think they know everything, and it's like, oh, God, my God, what am I gonna do to myself? You just burnt a filet mignon, or that just costed me that, or you just dropped that whole thing of sauce. It took me so many hours to do. I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I got lucky with this last staff.
Yeah, the way that I see it, you shouldn't micromanage. If you hire somebody to do a job, there's always kind of issues here and there. Oh, okay, let's do this or that. But you shouldn't be micromanaging.
No,
Otherwise,
now I use the structures that I learned throughout the time that I've been working, plus whatever Cohen Group gave me, because they taught me about like a lot of organizing and making sure the inventory and checklist and prep list and stuff like that. So I still stick to those same guidelines. And so that helps me a lot. As long as they have a prep list, a recipe book, and an order guide, things should be fine. Follow those 3 instructions to the best you can and keep clean and wipe your station down after you're done. You should have a successful restaurant.
Hey, so you've been with these guys for a long time, and then throughout your career, how much does humor play? What part does humor play into the whole thing? Or are you all business? Or because I've been not even in the kitchen, but you're like at places and they're having a blast back there.
Oh yeah, we have a good time. Like Bill and Mark and my staff, they have a great staff. Everybody gets along. Bill, he's an amazing boss. He's fun. He's funny, and we crack up about everything, and we have a good time. We bump the music in my kitchen, and the reason we get to bump the music is because my staff's getting the job done. There's no issues. There's little things here and there that I have. There's a reason why I'm cleaning the kitchen now, because the kitchen's not clean. But, I can see past those kind of things because I've been in situations where I'm like, I got to go. Can you guys get this done? And stuff's done. They take care of it. They handle it. When I need my days off with my kids, they're there. When I need to go do something, they're there. So I'm not gonna bitch and complain 110% about what's going on, what happened. I'm just gonna get it done, and move on. You know.
Hey, man. Well, it's been a blast. But before we let you go, you've been through a lot, and I'm fascinated by people's stories, and especially you. Like I said, we got the opportunity to go by your place, and it was amazing, and I was
Thank
blown
you.
away. And
Appreciate it.
we definitely said, hey, man, we gotta have him because it's very interesting. But you have some ink on your arm, and most
Yeah.
people have it means certain things.
So this is my my cooking arm. So I start off with this pepper, and
A pepper? Why a pepper? Mexican?
well, just I mean, I wanted a pepper at the time. It was just like food, and it's all I could afford at the time, and so so it started with that, and now it's my whole arm with food. Like these are all peppers. This is Bon Appetit, my first chef knife that I ever had. A fork, a French mustache, a spoon. This is the kitchen brigade right here. The line that I call the head chef, all the way down to your cooks. There's food on the ground. A rooster, a puffer fish.
What's a rooster about?
I grew up with roosters and chickens when I was a kid, and the rooster would always, wake us up in the morning. So this was one of the things I was like,
Time to go.
I wanted a rooster, and and then the North Park Tower. I used to play soccer there when I was a kid, so I used to go there all the time. And then
NP.
I put my kids on my arm. So this is Max right here, and then I got Luca on the other side. Right there.
I love it, man. They got with the little
Azteca.
Azteca.
So Maximus, his name's Maximus, Maximus Aurelius, obviously, but he's
my son, my middle son's name is Max, so we were watching the same movie at the same time.
Yeah, and their mom's Italian, so I was like, perfect. I'm gonna make him a gladiator, and then my little Mexican over here, and then I got this, which is Sunset Cliffs, right here, which is for me, and my lady, Yeah,
Sunsets.
Sunsets. Yeah, if it wasn't for her, I would never catch a sunset. So
that's awesome.
And you gotta stop and enjoy the little things in life.
Yeah.
Man. Especially a sunset is always.
oh yeah, I recommend anybody out there right now, go catch a sunset. You're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna love life, and you're gonna appreciate everything.
But actually, because it's take the time, go there to catch it, not just go there to see it. Go there, sit down way before, kick back, relax, and it is something else.
I'm still waiting for a green flash. I don't know. Everybody tells me about a green flash, so I'm waiting for a green flash.
You might need a little help.
But you know what, man? It's free, and it's sometimes the best things in life are free.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And so, I'm not gonna take nothing for granted no more. These days, it's like every time is precious, especially as we get older.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree with you more. Hey, well, it's been fantastic, man. I'm glad we took the time and you took the time to be with us, man. I really appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you guys. This is awesome.
This is just, I mean, as far as, like I said, man, I don't know much about cooking. I wish I did. I should take one or two courses, but I love food, and your food was just incredible.
Well, you ever need me to give you some cooking tips or whatever, I can always come to your house and cook at your house. I do personal chefing, so if there's any you want me to do 6 people, and I always educate during the same time I'm cooking. So
I think some of our viewers might take you up on that.
Absolutely.
So we'll definitely get your information posted to our website. And we thank you, man, for making the time to come out here and visiting us. And as we wrap this thing up and we get into the next venture, we'd love to have you back at some point.
Anytime.
And we'll have a party, and you can make some fantastic
Absolutely.
food for us.
I would love to cook for you guys.
All right. Well, from San Diego and BLDG Studios, we thank you for taking the time to listen to us and to visit with Chef Miguel. And we look forward to our next venture and our next time together. For now, peace out.
This has been The Other Side. Goodbye, everybody. Hey, Chris, I had a good time. It was good to meet Chef Miguel.
Absolutely. If you guys like what we're doing here, do us a favor right now. Just hit that subscribe, that like button, or download it. That helps us out tremendously. You can also follow us at theothersidepresents.com, Instagram, The Other Side Presents, Facebook, The Other Side, and our YouTube channel, The Other Side Presents.
Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you listening and watching. We'll see you next week on The Other Side.